build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance to spit in his eye. Well, they gave me ball, but I can see between to a dusty yard and a long gone green. They call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I dry my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone. I'm sober as good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Longbangers. This is episode 147. So we're looking at Black Red all the way through this one. Snooker reference, John. So you
right,
face
okay.
earlier, what are you talking about? Maximum break.
It's the right time of year and everything for it as well.
Aye.
Sorry, I've been studying the night, networking, cabling and stuff, and there's a lot of different cables and combinations and what is it they call it? Twisted pair and blah blah blah. Anyway, they're all coloured, and I was just immediately transported to a different world for a second there. So, apologies for the confusion.
I reckon folk will have got the snooker reference, but not got the networking reference.
Oh, definitely,
That's
aye.
where that's going to go.
Networking's for clever cunts.
I've just been watching Big Break, so I was right in my mind.
We're going to be snookering you tonight.
Excellent. Anyway, one person who was snookered today was Shaun Maloney. We thought we'd better put a podcast. Everybody else is doing it, and if there's nothing else that we like jumping on, it's a bandwagon. So we thought we would get a wee episode out tonight for subscribers and non-subscribers, a wee bonus episode. Give a reaction to it. So I've got Colin, John, and Craig on tonight. Craig, how you doing? Have a nice wee sip of your red wine there.
Good. Speaking of snooker, I'm on the red. I think the only reason Shaun Maloney was snooker because he couldn't reach over the table. But, I'm good, mate. Good. Happy to be back.
Good stuff. And John, you're having a sip of red. I think you're having a wee sip of tea there. How's that going?
Got myself a wee, well, not quite wee. It's a big mug of peppermint tea. Aye, it's quite nice.
Oh, peppermint tea, yeah. You do kind of the podcast that you're on. You did ever admit to having peppermint tea on this podcast? Just say it's a cup of tea like that. That's all we need to get it. We've already lost listeners. The folk are turning it off right now. We've started off on snooker.
And that as well, isn't it?
Aye, started off on snooker, and then this cunt's drinking peppermint tea. So
fucking Tory wank.
Ken, what's worse? There's a pint can of Tennent's in the fridge as well. Just sitting there, lonely.
Right. Colin, how about you?
All right, just Builder's tea. Just finished it though.
Milk in too.
Just the sweet. I have a wee sweet X in it now. No sugar.
That's very good. Right, we better get down to the nuts and bolts. So we're not gonna. It's not going to be a feature-length episode tonight. It'll be a wee quick one because it is just a wee bonus episode. And fuck me, we put enough stuff out, don't we? Go and listen to Headbangers, by the way. This is another thing I should point out. Headbangers published tonight, and we recorded it yesterday, totally unaware of what was going to happen today. So just so that episode doesn't get lost, have a wee look in your podcast players. It'll be there, and give it a wee listen. It's only 20 minutes or so. Right, Colin, Shaun Maloney got sacked. Tell us your thoughts.
As I was saying on the earlier thing we've done with the Down the Slope boys, I was just a bit surprised. I think that it happened. I'm still surprised. I've spoken to some folk that were saying, "Oh, didn't surprise me," but I thought I had to surprise everybody today. Like I'm surprised that somebody's not surprised, because I know it wasn't a great run he was on, but Saturday was probably one of the better, despite the defeat, one of the better performances in terms of application, and he changed the formation. He's trying to change things, and kind of gave me a wee bit of light at the end of the tunnel, actually, despite the defeat. So to sack him after that, just sort of surprised me, like I've already said about 10 times. Just couldn't believe it.
And John, what about you? You were talking about the building the case for keeping a manager when we recorded on Sunday night. So how are you feeling about it?
Well, first of all, I'm surprised that Colin's surprised that folk aren't surprised that he left.
Yeah.
But I, like you say, on Sunday, I made the case for keeping him. I made the case that if Hibs were to let him go, then questions needed to be asked of the board, the people that appointed him in the first place, because it comes 4 months after he was appointed, which came just a couple of months after, a short period after we'd given Jack Ross an extended deal. So the question is, what's going on? First of all, what's going on? Second of all, what's the plan? And third of all, and I think this is probably a question that's playing on my mind a wee bit more since Colin had talked about families and season tickets and the cost of it. what's the incentive for me right now to renew before the 31st of May or before even the start of the season? Because I've not got a lot of confidence.
Question. Well, we'll come on to that, and I'll get your reaction, Craig, as well. Have you heard the Radiohead song "No Surprises"?
Well, probably. I'm not very good with song names, but
Surprised.
I was going to try and come in with a surprise thing, but nah. I mean,
Did I ruin it for you? Sorry.
yeah. I don't do surprises. I mean, nah, I don't know. I mean, like, I've been thinking about it all day because initially, same as that, like, I was shocked. I was like, I know that the kind of the Twitterverse, if you want to call it that, like, you know, it's been either like Marmite's like either you love him or you hate him, like give him time or get rid of him. And a little tiny little part of me is like, you know, right, the board's been decisive. I can kind of see where they're coming from, but it's me just trying to reason with myself, trying to put Hibs in a better place in my mind than I think they actually are. The thing
I was doing the same, Craig.
I think
the only justification that I can think of is that they're trying to get, like, because we're thinking like 5 games before the end of the season. Maybe they're trying to get as much time as possible to review their plans for what's going to happen or for whoever happens next.
But the thing that worries me the most, I mean, you've said it twice or 3 times now in about 5 minutes, is the plan. It's like if the plan was to bring in Maloney and give him time and a window and money to deliver the style of football that he wants, which he stuck by. To be fair to him, he stuck by it. That's what he said he wanted to give us, and that's the way that he obviously sold it as, this is my style of play and this is my vision. If the board are giving up on him when they've signed a however long year contract with him, not just him, because it was him, Caldwell, Zudis, and the rest, you know, and they're ready to oust him this quickly. I mean, the cynic in me says it's because unfortunately we had Hearts 2 weeks in the bounce and they beat us twice. And obviously the fan base, it doesn't matter who the manager is, how well they're doing. If you get beaten twice, 2 weekends on the bounce by your city rivals, the fan base aren't going to be happy. You know what I mean? And it seems to me a little bit as if they've had a look at the immediate reaction to those 2 games and they've made a kind of a quick. I think
you've touched on something there. I think there is somebody sitting there looking at Twitter and reading the stuff on Twitter that says, like, if he doesn't, because people have been saying that on Twitter, if he doesn't win one of these next 2 games, if he doesn't win these games, he's finished. And it was the same with Jack Ross, all the uproar after the Livingston game. It was almost like they're reading the room of Twitter, if you like, and going and making decisions based on that, like, rather than like realising that's just like a wee bit of sort of an angry mob at times. Like, it doesn't represent the support. It does represent the support, right? But you know what I mean? It's only a minority. So they're not getting the full picture.
I can kind of, I mean, we spoke about it before. At the end of the day, Hibs is a business, right? We love it, and it's a club, and they want to be a community club, right? And in the eyes of Ron Gordon and that, Hibs is a business, and they need season ticket sales to be good in this sort of business, right? And I get it. And maybe at the moment, season ticket sales aren't that great, but there's a lot of time left. You know what I mean? Like, and it's coming up to the end of the month. People have spent a lot of money on semi-finals, trying to get Tynecastle and all this sort of, like, you know, so there's a lot of factors. And if I just say, like, for me personally, if I think they've made a call too early, because when Ben Kensall came out and talked about the reasons of getting rid of Ross and bringing in Maloney and the understanding that, you know, he's a manager without experience, but he's worked at the top level and he's an exciting new prospect, and all these words that are used to kind of say that, right, we understand that he's not going to be the finished article, but he can flourish at Hibs and we'll give him time and we'll give him money to get rid of him after. And don't get me wrong, like his record has been bad. But things that we spoke about on this podcast previously, you know, windows that have went by, losing players, other people at the club that are responsible for bringing in players and recruitment and all that sort of stuff, that Maloney would have had to have said, yeah, happy days, I'll deal with that. But when I get to the window, I'll be able to implement my own style and bring in people that I want. It just seems to me that, you know, they've listened to an angry mob. And like, I don't get me wrong, I've said things prior. I don't think I've said anything about Maloney, but especially after games against Hearts and that, like, we're football fans, we're passionate. That's what we are. And I'm not saying like, people shouldn't be. Of course you should be. That's what it's all about. But that's what I expect people on the board to sit down and say, right, people are obviously angry at the moment because we've just came off of 2 defeats to Hearts. You know, that's where I need people, or I would expect people that are sitting at board level and all that to have a level head and say, right, listen, we've set out, you know, stick to our guns, give them a window, give them a bit of time, and then if it doesn't work, then you can make decisive action and you can come out and say, well, you know, it didn't work prior to the window. We gave them the money, we gave them the time, and it didn't work out. So, you know, we're letting them go. Whereas it just seems a bit early to me. But
one of the accusations that gets levelled at Hibs a lot, right? It's one of these sort of catchphrases that folk fire at the club from time to time is accepting mediocrity, right? I mean, we've kind of discussed that phrase a few times on the podcast. Is this an example, Colin, the board not accepting mediocrity and having somebody basically saying, right, here's the targets we expect you to get. We expect you to get the better of Hearts. We expect you to get top 6. You failed on those counts, so then you fall on your sword for doing it. Is that a change in direction for the club, do you think? Is there an argument for them saying, well, actually, that's the board saying no good enough, so we'll get somebody else in?
You could argue that. I mean, because the top 6 was a clear target, not just top 6, top 4 has been a clear target, hasn't it? And after I was going to say after the Dundee United game, it was almost done, but certainly after the game at Tynecastle, it definitely was. And as I said earlier, like after that game, I was a wee bit like, then you start dropping your level to that when you started saying they were 7th when I came in and we're still 7th, because you obviously sensed it. But I wonder, why did they not bin him at that point then? Is it because they didn't know to sack him a week before another game at Hampden like they'd done the last time? I don't know, but because I think the top 6 was the target. Cup semi-finals, and that must be a target as well. It can't be a winning one's obviously the aim, but to get to at least semi-finals or latter stages will be the other one. So in that he achieved that. So I guess it was because of the top 6 failure, which was pretty bad. I mean, there was weeks and weeks. You only needed another fucking point or something. It wasn't even hard to. In reality, you know, like the loss at a draw up at Dundee and Dundee United at home. There's so many points just thrown away in that last few games. So I guess we're not accepting it. But on the other hand, I just feel it's a long-term strategy that's been run by short-term decisions, like we've been talking about with on other podcasts we've done. Like we're talking about long-term strategies, but we're knee-jerking as soon as something on Twitter goes on fire.
John, how do you feel about jerking?
I'm a big fan.
Yes.
Yeah, predominantly right-handed, but sometimes I like to switch up.
Right off as well.
And you asked a question, John, about what's your incentive, right, to renew, and asking the questions of the board. So what questions would you ask of the board if we had them on tonight? What would you be saying to them?
Why? I'd go back the last 3 managers. Heckingbottom emptied, Ross emptied, Maloney emptied. Did they really get enough time? Like, understand that new people have come in since Ron Gordon bought the club, but I want to say that Heckingbottom was Gordon's appointment. He was certainly in charge when Gordon took over, but Jack Ross came in under Ron Gordon. And Shaun Maloney's come in under Ron Gordon. I'm sure I said that on Sunday that Hibs are on record as having gone out and quoted him. So they had a vision in mind, they had a plan in mind. I think Craig mentioned it there as well. So why 4 or 5 months into his tenure have you let him go? Like, what was the deciding factor? And what were and if there were targets that we discussed that he hasn't met, did you take into account any other factors? like the previous transfer windows being a fucking mess. The number of injuries that Hibs have had that have quite clearly had an impact on the team and the results. And also, just to pick up on a point that Craig made, like Hibs are a business, but we're a fan of the club. Ron Gordon's on record as saying that the players on the pitch are central to that. They're the foundation of what makes the football club tick. So why are we, it seems to me anyway, actively harming the foundation of the business? Because the manager's a part of it. He's not part of the playing staff, but he puts the playing staff out. And we have now gone through 3 managers in what, a space of, I don't know how many months it is. 2 years. Let's say it was 2 years. Because I think it was October 2020, I think, when Jack Ross took over. 3 managers in 2 years. Like, what is the structure and the plan going forward? And how do we, I suppose another question is, how do we avoid finding ourselves in this position in 4 months or 8 months' time?
I mean, like, touching on what you're saying there, John, if the club are bringing in new managers because they understand that we're not in a good place, then by that logic, we've not been in a good place for a good couple of years. And if you're bringing in people to make a big change because we're not in a good place, this isn't like you're bringing in a new manager because, we're only a little bit short here and there, and we think bringing in somebody else will just, they've said that, this club needs big change, we expect better, this is what we need. If the people that are running the club, and I'm not saying Ron Gordon per se, because he obviously has never ran a football club, and I think he mentioned it, but if the people he's bringing in to work for him, for his business, aren't given their candidates enough time to implement what they sold to them in the interviews that they held, then why aren't they coming under scrutiny? Because
one of them owns the club, so it's a tough one. But he does employ 2 other people.
No, this is what. No,
committee and all that.
This is what I mean. I think I'm fucking illiterate, right? So you're taking,
No, I know.
and making it. But my question is I'm not holding Ron Gordon accountable as such, because he's the owner and he's, as you say, he's brought people in to do this. But surely he's got to be questioning, well, if you've, I'm not going to say Ben Kenzel because I don't understand how the business works enough to name exact names, but I know he's a pivotal person. But there's other people at the club as well, right? If these people that are turning around to the owner and saying, you need to sack this manager because it's not working, and we need to bring this one in because we believe that they will be the future of this club, and sell the owner, give him a 3-year contract, bring in all his staff. This is the, and also with the understanding that, in Shaun Maloney's case, he's not got that much experience, but he's worked at the highest heights with Belgium and all this sort of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Now, 4 months later, you're having to have an emergency meeting on a Monday afternoon to say, by the way, we want to get rid of him, Vidus, Caldwell, blah, 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 and we need to bring somebody else in. As an owner, that's where I would start fucking worrying. And then not only that, if they then turn around and say, right, well, we need to bring somebody in with loads of experience, hard, gritty football and this leadership that we're talking about, an asshole in the dressing room, one that's going to just put the ball at the park and you're back to square one where you're saying, well, what was the fucking point of bringing Maloney in the first place? Because you're bringing them in because you're saying they're young, aspiring, the next up-and-coming thing, we want to bring exciting attacking football, and 4 months later you bin them for somebody, I'm not saying that we will, but bringing in somebody that's just like a fucking, like a Sam Allardyce. I'm not saying that that's the name, that's just an
example of a shite man.
An example, you know what I mean?
Shouts at folk
like, then what's the fucking point? Then really, how can you stand up in front of a PowerPoint presentation and sell that to people? And don't get me wrong, I think I'm reluctant to say fans are in the wrong as well. But as fans, we've got to be better at saying we need to give it time. We need to, because it's a bit of give or take, because then the business are looking at us and saying, well, if we're taking feelers from out in the room, people aren't fucking happy, so we need to make a decisive decision. But a decisive decision, you know what I mean? It fucking infuriates me, because I don't see where they can go from here. How can a chief exec, or whatever the title is, turn around to an owner and say, right, we need to bring in somebody that's exciting, plays fast attacking football, blah, 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 blah. When from what I can see, at least anyway, there's nobody available that isn't young or inexperienced and tries to tell the same thing. We're going to end up with like fucking, how many people have we got on the wage bill at the moment that are there at the club?
That are elsewhere. But
I don't know.
One of the questions that you would ask though is the board, right? So playing devil's advocate, and obviously on a day like today, I'm sure your phones have been as busy as mine with kind of folk getting in touch, conversations about it, and or the stories start to kind of come out about things that folk have heard over the last however many weeks at the training centre. One of the examples I have without kind of naming names, a senior player at the club kind of getting frustrated with Maloney because he didn't know what he was being asked to do, what the point of the training was, what the actual system was. They were getting confused with the tactics and what what the ask of them was. The board will have a line into the players as well. That'll get communicated back to them, you would think. So if you're the board, so my understanding is there was a board meeting either last night or the night before, but it was unanimously agreed that Maloney would not turn it around, and that the decision was made to fire him. If you are watching the club, you're watching the team, you're in the board, you're seeing us not really showing very many signs of progressing. We're struggling for goals, struggling to keep them out, and then you hear also that the players aren't necessarily picking up what's being communicated at training. Does it then become the right thing to do to pull the trigger and fire him, Colin? Do you think that that gives them the sense that there's no way back?
Well, it does, but I mean, what does the so somebody asked me this earlier. They says, if you're not performing at your work, you get sacked. I says, no, you've got a performance plan, right? So I know it's no football, but he had till the end of the season to try and sort it out. I mean, I don't know if they've had conversations. It would seem awfully quick to get somebody's in the door and 3 months in they're on a pit like. But maybe they could have been doing something to help him rather than like, because this was the thing. This was going to be attractive, free flowing,
Trust the process.
attacking football, trust the process, all of that. But yet, in the meantime, they're going, we're going to sack him if he doesn't win the derby. Like, so where's there's a bit of disconnect there. I don't know. It just seemed a bit sudden, without any real assistance. I mean, would they not have if they're wanting to help him get like an older head along to? I mean, Maloney always talks about he liked the older guys coming down to training and all that. Could they not have got some help out of one of the older heads to have a word with him and speak to him and try and bring him on rather than, I don't know, maybe he wouldn't. But at the end of it's a bit dead rubber to the end of the season anyway. Maybe they're seeing it. You could see that both ways. You say, well, we either try and develop them over the next 3 months, 2 months, or there's no hope here. But if there's no hope here, they should have been identifying it in the recruitment process. The recruitment process is completely failed here.
But in this case though, how can you ever progress, right? Like, I understand that you need stalwarts, you need old players, you need this and the next thing, and I'm not. You hear rumours, you don't know what's going on, who said what or whatever, right? But like in my line of work, at least anyway, right? There's been a lot of big changes over the past 10 years or whatever, like and for the good. And I see it a lot. You probably see it yourself, like where like old people. I say old people, but like people of different generations on Facebook and that have completely different views on certain things in work and other sort of thing, like But how can you ever move forward if, like the older generation or whatever don't understand what a young, exciting new manager or whatever is going to say? Like, at what point?
I think the point is, Craig, that nobody was getting it. So it wasn't just the experienced player that wasn't getting it, but and to back that up, like I think when you watch the team, Saturday was the exception where we actually looked like the players all Kent.
Yeah.
But what you had there was a group of players that were just fighting. They were chucking everything at the game.
Yeah, but then for me, like again, kind of playing devil's advocate, like if you've got a group of, like, say, older players in the team, right? And I'm not saying like this is all just rumour. It's all just like ifs, right? If you've got an older set of players, right, that don't understand or don't see a way that a new manager who's worked at the highest level with, you know, the best players in the world and all that sort of stuff, if they don't see his style of coaching, his style of training, his philosophy of the game and how it works on the pitch, then you're not going to get them turning around on a pitch with the young lads and saying, oh, just keep doing what he's doing. They're going to turn and go, nah, we'll go back to the old way because this is what we know this way. As a young player, if you're in that situation, how do you deal with it? How do you turn around to an older player, to a leader, to, you know, whatever, like a stalwart of a team, and turn and say, nah, shut up, old man. We're going to do it this way. This is what we're going to do. Like, you know, like,
you listen to them and then you
it's
adapt.
like,
That's what you do. Is you value
exactly.
that opinion.
But what I'm saying is, if we've got a lot of people, if we've got people that are saying, oh, you know, if we've got, I don't want to say names, but if we've got a lot of old players that are so stuck in their way that they can't adapt, then as a young player, you're going to struggle to.
I don't think it's not
speak up
adapting.
Against.
Craig, what we've heard, it's that actually, what are you asking us to do? Not, I'm not willing. It's like, what is it? You're not communicating it in the right way. Like, tell me what you want me to do or us to do, and we'll go and try and do it. But it's not coming across. What I don't understand.
And if it is that, and I'm not. This isn't. It's hard to put an opinion across something that I don't really like. I don't know what's happened. I'm, you know, just trying to play devil's advocate. But if that's the case, and you've got the like a Vidus or whatever his name is, you've got Caldwell, you've got so many professional people that you've brought in to put that point across. If the whole team aren't getting it, and you've had to oust them for that reason, which is a good reason, you know, if that is why the board have got rid of them, then why aren't the people that brought all these people in on all this wage, why aren't they getting questioned? Why are we left with, you know what I mean? Like surely that's the big elephant in the room. It's saying, well, you were the one that told us to sack Ross and his team. You were the one that these are the people who make the change. You know, now lumped with the bill.
So on that point, right? So if you look across Twitter today or Hibs.net at the bounce, there are huge questions being asked about Ron Gordon, Ben Kensel in particular, and also Ian Gordon. John, what's your view, right? In light of what's happened, what's your view on how the club is being run and managed at the moment, and who do you think is ultimately to blame for Maloney's departure?
I think Craig touched on it before, so he kind of removed Ron Gordon for the equation a wee bit because he's kind of like he's the owner and he's appointed a team. Like I think it's all. We talked about it recently. There's not any Hibs people left at the club anymore. Previous regimes, they've all left. So Dempster's away, Matthew's away, etc., etc. So if we were going to blame them for failings previously, you can only really look in one direction, can't you? It is the likes of Ben Kensel, it is the likes of Ian Gordon. If there's a problem with recruitment, he's head of recruitment. You have to go to that guy and ask him the question. Although I appreciate that you sent me that article recently where it talks about the committee, about it's kind of run like a committee when they sign on a player. So who's the committee? And if it's not the head, then you look at them all. I mean, there isn't really another way to get around it. If they're the ones in charge, if Maloney's responsible for results on the pitch and he gets emptied because the results aren't up to scratch, he gets the bullet. If what's going on above him in terms of recruitment and running the club, if that's not up to scratch, they also get the bullet, surely.
It does feel like at the moment it's the easy answer is the buck stops with the manager, because that's what's happened. That's what they've done. Like they sacked Matthew, but then shortly after Matthew, they got rid of the manager anyway, just for good measure. They tried to blame the director of football, whatever he was called at the time. But even that, we're kind of giving Ron Gordon a free pass. We don't know how much he's involved here. Is he making decisions that is impacting on the others' jobs, and then the others are going, fuck me, like I didn't know he was going to do that, and then they're having to deal with it, and he does own it, so we can hold him accountable to some extent, but we can't, like, we need him. So that's the problem there, because the other ones could be held accountable and got rid of, although one is the son of the owner, which brings a different level of complexity into it. But with him, it's like, if we want rid of him, somebody needs to fucking buy it. So I think that's the problem, because he could be doing stuff. He could be involved in making decisions that he's not going to be held accountable ultimately for, because it's his problem, and we've just got to deal with it because we let him buy the club, or Sir Tom did.
Yeah. Do you trust him, Colin, to get the next managerial appointment right?
No, not based on what's happened already. No, I don't know if he needs to get someone in that can maybe help, somebody that knows about football, with a bit of experience. Because you look at that committee that we've just spoken about. Let's assume they three are the committee. What experience have they got appointing any managers? Like Kensal, before he came here, wouldn't have been involved in that, I don't think. And when he's been here, we've had two that they've sacked, or one certainly. One that, if you give Maloney all the credit to him for that. Ian Gordon, no idea what he's like, as we spoke about on Monday night's extra one. We don't know what his background is, other than what his surname is, and that's why he's here. And Ron Gordon never had anything to do with football before. He's a fucking fan like us. We've never appointed a football manager before. Neither's he, until he came here. So I'd like somebody to be in there helping them, like in some kind of advisory role. Get somebody in that might know something about it. I don't know who that is. Like, I don't know who they can go to. But
George
somebody that's
Baker or Graham Matthew.
maybe somebody that knows about football and that. To give them some pointers, not to make the decision for them, but just to point out things they might not think of, because look where we are, look what they've done. So.
By the way, I don't think this is going to sound really petty, so forgive me for it, but when Shaun Maloney was announced, and it was announced, in fact, there was rumours beforehand that Gary Caldwell was going to be joining, I wouldn't say that I switched off, but I had a few raised eyebrows because of Gary Caldwell's history with the club. I wouldn't mind someone at Hibs tapping into the support to say, well, what do you think of this guy? I don't know how this would work in practice, but saying like, what do you think about Kevin Thompson?
Well, we got
polarising figure.
Sued, didn't we?
I think they
We got
just
a
look
sued.
at it,
The
It's
thing
worrying,
is,
like what?
the way that we're being run now, you would not be fucking surprised if they went next week and went, ta-da, here's Kevin Thompson with Ian Murray, for example, as his assistant, or vice versa. You know, and then everybody would go, oh, fuck it, because that would be about as Hibs a thing to fucking possibly do under the room.
That or Malcolm Mackay.
So I'm seeing, so you'll have seen some of the names that are getting touted about the day. So like John Kennedy's getting touted, and I think there's folk that are, I don't know if it's worried or concerned, but I don't see anything in John Kennedy that makes me think that he's any less of a rookie than Shaun Maloney, which is one of the reasons why he's been shown or at least that's the perception amongst the Hibs supporters as to why he's been shown the door, because it was too big a job too soon for him, whatever.
Would be getting all the Catherine Mark IIs or Mark IIIs or whatever they would call.
I can't remember. Was Shaun Maloney even in the running, like early doors when we got to the Ross?
Nah, just when I mentioned it on here.
Colin brought it up. No, it was kind of touted as a potential, because remember we were talking about him, and actually we were quite against it initially, and then it was only once I actually kind of looked into his coaching background that started to come around to the idea of Maloney.
I mean, was it like one of the big front runners? Because I think like it's the same thing with Scottish football, isn't it, where the big front runners are kind of, it's always the same names that kind of touted out at the same time. Like, you know, if any other team binned their manager, I think it was the same at Aberdeen, it would be the kind of the same that they were looking at. But like, I mean, like I'm always one where obviously I care who the manager is that comes in, but whoever Hibs pick, I will support because it's my team and I'll give them a fair chance. But it's fair to say that if Hibs decided to go with Malcolm Mackay, I wouldn't give them a fucking time of day. And this is where I think people like, you know, suing that they've got to, like, for the club. They need to please just listen to fucking some of the support, because
that's what Kieran was. Kieran was that. I don't know if that's still his role anymore, because I know he's kind of moving into a different type of role in that. But that the supporters liaison role, and he was brilliant at that.
He was, and I don't know.
He would be here for that point of view.
I feel it's difficult for me because I kind of like, you don't want to turn around and be like that. I am the Hibs fan. Listen to me, like, you know, because everybody's important as everybody else. We're a fan base. That's just the way it is. But the feeling I get like around that one name is that a lot of people would not would not take it and would not be happy. And in my personal, and that is my personal view, I think that's right. Like, it shouldn't be anywhere near the club. So please, if anybody at Hibs is listening, stay fucking well away.
It could be a
It's
bit of David Goodwillie situation if Mackay got the
100%.
job,
No,
really.
that's it.
Aye.
That's it. 100%.
And it's the last thing Hibs need. There's absolutely zero point in them doing it. Even if he's not that good a manager that it's worth splitting the fan base for. It's the same with Kevin Thompson, same with Ian Murray. You just didn't need that baggage.
Neil
for them. You need
Lennon.
that. Neil Lennon. You need somebody who comes in that everything just is going to get right behind and go
Who
right.
is that though?
Well,
Like that is a tough ask. Like because of the way our fan base is.
Who would want
you
it?
could
This
take,
is the other worrying thing. Who would want it? Like if we're outside of football, right?
Someone that's got a holiday planned in 4 to 6 months.
Somebody that fancies taking a 3-year contract and no working for 2.5 years. No, but like, think about it. Like, outside of football, if you're going for a job, right, and you're looking at like a company, and they're known for getting rid of people if they have a little bad run, or like
Football managers didn't care. Doesn't matter. Football doesn't come in it in football.
I would hope it doesn't. But like, if I'm a young inspired, like, you must be thinking like.
But they all come in
What
with
were these?
confidence. It's like a player leaving Hibs or Hearts or whatever to go to Rangers or Celtic. They think they've got to play every week. We're all going, you just got to sit on the bench and waste 3 years of your career. And that's how a manager comes in thinking they're going to. That'll not happen to me though. So I'll get them third place and I'll win the cup. So they don't see it that way, and they're wanting to get on the ladder and they want to. I'll just do what Tony Mowbray done, or that's it. The confidence they've got, and there's that many of them out of work that will take the job. Like, we'll guaranteed there'll be some kind of comment at the press conference or whatever about how many CVs we've already had, how many we've already
It's
received.
that ugly side of Hibs bingo, isn't it? It's the fast, the free flowing, fast attack minded football that'll get trotted out, and it's like at this stage, it was the same as the training centre. Get it to fuck and get real. Who are you appointing? What's the plan?
Who would you appoint in, Colin? If I don't know, you could. You gave a brilliant answer earlier on the Down the Slope podcast. Have you had time to think of a less
real
good answer?
A proper answer. Nah, what I do know, right? I know what I don't want. So that would score a lot of names off probably the bookies list and that. So anybody that's ever played for Hibs before, anybody that's ever managed Hibs before, anybody that's been at Celtic before, based on, like, if you take those out of anybody that's managed us over the last wee while, there's no many left. You've got Heckingbottom left, but other than that, you've got Yogi and Mixu and fucking Neil Lennon, Mowbray, Stubbs. You know what I mean? They're John Collins are all in that fucking box of ex-Hibs or whatever. And then now you're getting touted Thompson and Murray and fucking get Lennon back with Scott Brown, and you're like, fucking hell, let's just fucking call it quits. Right, we're not doing that this time. Any of that. So take all them off the list. Also, I think it was Liam that said earlier, no like a Graham Alexander type person, lower league England that comes up and just boots people up and down the park. They worry about the ball. Take the man, that kind of style. No thanks. So I don't know who that leaves. What I did say earlier was get Martin Boyle back on a player manager contract, which then was pointed out by his ex-Hibs. But it doesn't feel like he's left yet, does it? He's only been there a couple of months. So,
John, same question to you. Who would you? In fact, see, just before you answer that, there's just noticed in one of the group chats there as I switched off for whatever Colin was talking about. Rumours going about that Ben Kensal was also making way for somebody else. So just as rumours doing around that Kensal was obviously, I don't know if there's anything in that.
What's the opposite Hibs official to the scarf above the head? Is it just like, is it the club statement?
The club statement is when it comes out, isn't it? Just like well, has it happened this morning? You get a wee notification on your phone saying that they've tweeted something, and you go on, you're like, "What the fuck's happening?" And it's normally like a murder mystery night or something, but occasionally it's dynamite, like today was. If that's true, John, and Ben Kensal is away, do you support that decision?
Aye, I think so. We talked about on Friday about having the courage to stand by your convictions, and I've said tonight that if the results above the pitch, so above Shaun Maloney's head, are not up to scratch, then the accountability has to be there that they also need to leave.
Okay, right. So back to the original question. We'll wait and see whether that's true. I don't suppose there's that much value in talking about a rumor if we've no idea if it's anything in it or not. John, you're in Ben Kensel's position. You're picking a new manager. Who's your go-to?
Looking over
Who
your
you-
shoulder. You're like,
Aye,
fucking
fuck.
Grim Reaper standing in the corner.
I would probably expand on what Colin said and go through that, like try to understand if there's any way that any appointment that I was going to make could polarise the Hibs support in the way that some of the candidates that have been mentioned are. Bizarrely, to sort of counter Colin's point a wee bit, the only person I can think that I would consider right now, and it's not because I think that they should be manager. I think that because of the division that we've talked about amongst the support, like the previous managers that we've had, we need one person that the entire support can unite behind. And I honestly can only think of David Gray at the moment. And I know that puts at risk his knighthood and
He's
his
not
legacy
ex-Hibs,
at
though.
risk.
He's never
Well,
been ex-Hibs, so
he's
it
not
doesn't fit my
ex-Hibs.
criteria.
So it might just be the wee spell that folk need to get behind the manager. In the short term, we need that for preserving our Premiership status. Long term, I think it would probably benefit us as well. But as I say, I totally understand why he wouldn't want to touch it outside of the caretaker role, because 4 months seems to be what you get now.
Same question to you.
If Ben Kensel's gone, why don't we sign Ben Kensel?
As manager.
Aye, fuck it.
He could maybe appoint himself before he gets sacked.
Aye,
fuck it.
I think it was suggested that he was bringing in players, so maybe he can put a team on the park.
Aye, he obviously he can, doesn't he? So he can do it.
You wonder if there's like a kind of recently retired, really good. Do you know, like Gerrard when he went to Rangers, right? So no suggestion we could get somebody quite as that stature, but I would imagine there's probably players kicking about that would have the status that automatically kind of command respect in the dressing room. You know, when they come in.
Adam Johnson's been kicking about the media.
Come on now. Come on, right.
Do you know what the thing? Do you know what the thing is? Right. Obviously, I'm jesting. Right. There's fucking nobody, is there? Really? I mean, like normally there's a few managers kicking about that pique interest, and people even.
But there's nobody there now. You're right.
Not for Hibs, but like even at the time when McInnes lost his job and all that, you know, like they're the type of managers that even like Jack Ross leaving Hibs, they're the type of managers that pique people's interest, but there's nobody. So, I mean, for me, in all honesty, I don't know. The problem I think Hibs have, right, is we've went for the young, exciting manager that's had no experience in Maloney with Bindham. We've went for the up and coming ex-Scottish manager that's went down south and not done really well, not succeeded like they would want him to, but looked good enough in Ross. We've picked up the kind of, not the unknown, but the up and coming coach from down south and Paul Heckenbottom and Bindham. We've went for the old and bold and Terry Butcher and like, oh, he's a big hard bastard, and failed. We've went for the mad bastard that's hard as anything and Irish as Irish can be, and Neil Francis Lennon, and he done all right and then tailed off towards the end, but the fans still seem to love him because they can forget that bit because he's Irish and he's nails, and that's what we need. It's as if we've tried everything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for me, whatever you need, whatever you're going to try and whatever you're going to bring in, you need them to be, you need to back them for time. And for whatever reason, at Hibs at the moment, managers don't get time. So
time and money, yeah, that's what we need. Time and money and a decent.
Yeah, and like, to be honest about it, I think we just need to be honest with ourselves and say, right, this is where we are now. We need, as you say, we need time and money, and we need to back whoever it is. And I think Colin alludes to it. It doesn't matter who Hibs bring in, because people won't back them. And what we need is we need the backroom staff. We need the board. We need the owner and we need whoever the CEO is, whatever's going to happen. We need them to turn around to the fans and sell whatever they've got. Doesn't matter what. Just say, listen, this is what we've chosen. This is the reason that we've chosen it. Times might be tough, but we're Hibs and we back the team and we back the manager. And this is the reason why we do it. And this is what we need to sell you. Because at the moment, we're getting sold all these different things every year. And it's just not happening.
Talking of that, Craig, I'm just looking at where you're sitting in the ground now, and you've got the silver seats and the gold and the bronze. I reckon how much they'll be charging for a seat facing away for the pitch, but I reckon it's probably the most expensive seat in the house that you've got at the minute. Right, we'll wrap up because we're kind of out of time now, but just very, very quickly, round the table, right or wrong decision to sack Maloney. Colin?
I think it was the wrong one at the wrong time. Maybe it might be the right decision in the long term, but I think at the moment it feels wrong to me. Like if there's, it feels wrong at the moment.
Okay, John.
I disagree. I disagree with his sacking. I don't know. It's not that I disagree with Colin. I can't get the thinking behind it. I don't understand.
Craig.
Aye, wrong decision.
Okay, so it's a
Yourself?
3 wrongs there. I think it was premature. And also, if you believe some of the stories going around about, board members telling people that Maloney was getting sacked if he lost on Saturday, I think that's an absolute disgrace.
That's the bigger worry.
That's a bigger problem. It tells you everything, or why things are as wrong as that at the club, and that in itself should be a sackable offence, in my opinion. So yeah, I think we're a bit too early with the trigger.
Some of the sponsors haven't got much discretion either, because it sounds like everybody found out about it.
Everybody cared about it, and that can't be nice for Maloney going into the game Saturday, because no doubt Maloney would have cared about it as well. Yeah. So you have to feel for him, and it's one of these things. The sad thing is, I don't know if we said it at the start of the podcast or if we said it before, but it looks like the highlight of Maloney's time at Hibs was a wee 45-minute interview that he had with the Longbangers. But there you go, that interview's still available. Go and check it out. Right, that's us. This will be out ad-free for subscribers. So if you're a subscriber, think you're so lucky in the adverts. But we can't give you it earlier because we need to get it out to everybody quickly. If you're not a subscriber yet, go to longbangers.hubwave.net and sign up to get some great content on there. In the meantime, Colin, John, Craig, thanks very much for your time this evening, and we'll catch you next time.
County line, I pledged upon. Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink water, no.